This week, Cirrus restarts their on-again, off-again jet program, maybe. Pipistrel unveils their brand new all-composite GA airplane, and it's the final flight for the Space Shuttle Discovery. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero TV. After a fair bit of hype, smoke, and mirrors, the major announcement promised last week by Cirrus Aircraft is that they're going to do what they said they were going to do last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. In simpler terms, Cirrus claims that their Chinese state-owned parent, the China Aviation Industry General Aircraft Company, has committed to the full funding of the nearly dormant Cirrus SF-50 single-engine jet. First conceived over a decade ago and publicly proposed in 2008 by Cirrus founder and visionary Alan Klapmeyer. The announcement does not come without the inevitable gotcha, such as a price increase to a staggering $1.96 million, nearly twice as much as the original targeted price for the aircraft, and an expected first delivery date of sometime in 2015. Mind you, much of the original brain trust has been laid off, fired, terminated, or otherwise found other work, while a number of others are looking for positions outside of Cirrus as recently as the last few weeks. This leads one to question how Cirrus can take a now dated proof-of-concept vehicle that is not remotely production-ready, find the necessary staff, build the requisite production test vehicle, develop a cohesive test program, pursue type certification, and also achieve a production certificate for an all-new vehicle with no commonality with previous aircraft production systems, all in 2.5 years? As usual, Cirrus's credibility on this issue would seem to have a problem passing the smell test, while industry experts, including those who have accomplished or are currently involved in active certification and production development programs, scoff at Cirrus's overly optimistic timeline. ANN has a more detailed analysis at www.aero-news.net and our lead story from Wednesday, April 18th. Be sure to check it out. It's always exciting when someone rolls out a new airplane, and Wednesday, the aviation community got its first look at Pipistrel's long-awaited new four-place airplane, the Panthera. The four-seat, all-composite design features a retractable undercarriage, 200-knot cruising speed, 1,000 nautical mile range, comfortable cabin, and a choice of 3 power plants: conventional, hybrid, or electric. The airplane was introduced at Aero Expo 2012 in Friedrichshafen, Germany. The prototype is powered by a Lycoming IO390 fuel-injected engine, but the gas-electric hybrid and fully electric power plants are coming soon, according to the company. Even with the Lycoming, Pipistrel says the airplane achieves 200 knots on just 10 gallons per hour. Standard equipment also includes a ballistic parachute rescue system, 26G safety cockpit, and select Garmin avionics. Certification is expected in 2015. Meanwhile, Tecnam's latest offering, the P2010, flew for the first time on April 12th. Tecnam's test pilot, Marco Locatelli, said that the airplane is very stable once in trim. Excellent visibility allows the pilot to have good references to the horizon, and that the Garmin PFD provides very good attitude and situational awareness. Locatelli went on to comment that the P2010's behavior appears safe and predictable through the full flight envelope. Flight controls are precise and effective, and attitudes can be attained with sufficient precision on all axes. Speed and flight controls, displacement, and effort curves are acceptable, and pitch trim is usable and effective. Tecnam says the aircraft has good characteristics for a potential primary training aircraft. Transport Canada has certified both regular and special mission versions of the DA42 NG, powered by Diamond's proprietary Austro Engine AE300 jet fuel piston diesel power plant. The Transport Canada validation of the EASA type certificate includes certification of all available optional equipment including the ice protection system, with validation of the EASA certification for intentional operations and known icing conditions pending. Meanwhile, EASA certified Hawker Beechcraft's King Air 250 this week. The King Air 250's new features include composite winglets and propellers, as well as engine induction modifications that contribute to its increased performance. HBC says European deliveries of the airplanes are expected to begin this summer. A tornado swept through South Wichita on Saturday night, causing significant damage but apparently no major injuries. Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems took a direct hit, officials said, as did the Oaklawn neighborhood and a mobile home park. According to published reports, the preliminary assessment conducted by city and county officials currently estimates the overall loss in the Wichita area to be as much as $283 million. There was also fairly extensive damage to the building housing the Kansas Aviation Museum, but the airplanes reportedly fared pretty well. Television station KAKE reported that an O-2B, the military variant of the Cessna 337, was flipped over on its top. Some others, such as a KC-135 tanker, weather-vaned into the wind, according to the executive director, Lon Smith. Even as LightSquared flirts with bankruptcy, some members of the U.S. Congress are not willing to let go of the idea of a nationwide wireless data network quite that easily. But protecting GPS does seem to be a priority. Tom Patton has more on that story.
A group of 4 lawmakers has sent a letter to FCC Chairman Julius Genachowski, urging him to find a solution that will allow LightSquared to move forward with its plans to develop a nationwide 4G LTE network. According to a report in The Hill, 2 Republicans, Brian Bilbrey of California and Joe Pitts of Pennsylvania, joined 2 Democrats, Jim Moran and Jerry Connolly of Virginia, in sending the letter. They say that LightSquared's plan would increase competition, resulting in lower consumer prices for wireless connectivity, and that discounting the company's multi-billion-dollar investment would, quote, ignore a decade of regulatory rules and orders on which this business relied in building their model, end quote. The group of 4 urges the FCC to, quote, examine all possibilities that would allow LightSquared to move forward. 2 other lawmakers, Republican Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa and Ohio Republican Congressman Michael Turner, are concerned that a declaration of bankruptcy by LightSquared would mean that the federal government would be on the hook to pay for all of the interference studies conducted by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, according to a report in PC World. They said they're concerned about the appearance of preferential treatment for LightSquared because of the political contributions made by the company's owner to the Obama campaign. Grassley and Turner wrote, quote, if LightSquared does indeed declare bankruptcy, our concern is that the federal government will be unable to recoup the taxpayer dollars it has expended funding testing on LightSquared's network, end quote. The 2 lawmakers have asked the FCC to try to find other spectrum on which LightSquared could operate. But industry insiders say that any spectrum swap could take years to accomplish and would require that many regulatory hurdles be overcome. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
You're watching Airborne. More in a moment.
Since its inception, Redbird Flight Simulations has been dedicated to developing new training technologies and processes in an ongoing effort to make aviation safer, more affordable, and more accessible.
We're using technology to make this kind of training accessible to all flight schools of all sizes and all budgets, and to democratize flying in general, because we make this kind of training more accessible to people.
For more information about Redbird Flight Simulations, as well as Redbird's new Skyport, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com or www.redbirdskyport.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero TV, our website, or podcast, send us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. The FAA has recently adopted a rule to address pilot fatigue for passenger flights, after considering extensive scientific studies, hearings, and industry feedback. The rule, which requires 8 hours of rest between shifts, was finalized on January 4, 2012, and is scheduled to go into effect January 14, 2014, but it exempts cargo pilots. U.S. Representative Chip Kravac and Tim Bishop have introduced H.R. 4350, the Safe Skies Act of 2012. The bill directs the Secretary of Transportation to apply the same rule relating to flight crew member duty and rest requirements to all cargo operations in the same manner as they apply to passenger operations. Kravac, a former cargo pilot, said he understands the importance of a single standard of safety for pilots who share the same airspace and runways with passenger aircraft. So far, there is no companion bill in the U.S. Senate. Boeing said last week it has made a series of design updates to the 737 MAX to further optimize the new engine variant's performance. Some of those design changes include an extension of the tail cone and a thicker elevator to improve airflow and eliminate vortex generators on the tail. A new pylon and strut, along with an 8-inch nose gear extension, will maintain ground clearance about the same as today's 737 while accommodating the larger LEAP 1B engine fan. The nose gear door design is altered to fit with this revision. The flight controls will include fly-by-wire spoilers, which will save weight by replacing a mechanical system. Other minor changes to the airplane include strengthening the main landing gear, wing, and fuselage to accommodate the increase in loads due to the larger engines. Boeing will continue to conduct aerodynamic, engine, and airplane trade studies as the team works to optimize the design of the airplane by mid-2013. In just a moment, ANN's editor-in-chief, Jim Campbell, offers his thoughts on Discovery's relegation to the Smithsonian. I'm Ashley Hale, and you're Airborne on Aero TV.
Aviation is the brand of choice for pilots who want innovative, easy-to-use avionics. And the new IFD 540 GPS Navcom sets a new standard for simplicity in communication and LPV navigation. As a slide-in replacement for existing 530 series navigators, and with a highly intuitive touchscreen control, the IFD 540 makes it much easier to access the information you want when you want it, reducing head-down time and making flying more enjoyable. Finally, you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Aviation.
Thanks for joining us. It's time for this week's barnstorming commentary. Discovery made its final flight this week, which has caused a lot of reminiscing about the shuttle program and hard looks at the current state of our nation's space program. ANN's editor-in-chief Jim Campbell offers his views.
Thanks, Ashley. We watched Discovery leave its home, a place of glory, a place of great accomplishment, a place where it made history time and time and time again, to go to Washington and alight at Dulles Field, where it is going to become a museum piece, where people will poke at it and prod at it and wonder aloud about, well, where'd all that money go and what did it really mean and what did it really do? And the fact of the matter is that's such an incredible shame and such an incredible waste. This is a vehicle that had dozens and dozens and dozens of missions still left in it, a lot of unrealized potential, as well as the rest of the fleet. We are now dependent upon foreign nations and foreign governments at this point for our access to the International Space Station, which was primarily built by us and conceived by us many years ago. We are beholden to others because we did not have the vision and the courage to continue reaching for the stars as we did some 50 years ago. It bothers me to no end. It's not just the pride and prestige of being a spacefaring nation. It's the technology, it's the innovation, and it's the inspiration for people who would look at the shuttles and who looked before at Mercury and Gemini and Apollo and Skylab and all these things and thought that, they too could do amazing things. And what amazing things can they do now? Watch the Russians take our astronauts to the ISS? Oh, please. Now, I have great faith in commercial space. I've worked alongside these people. Those of you who followed my career know that I've been heavily involved in the private and commercial space industry for a number of years. I have no doubt that they're going to do things that ultimately will make NASA's greatest triumphs pale in comparison. But we're not there yet, and we could have bridged the gap, and we could have been flying the shuttles. So as people clapped and waved and applauded and yelled and screamed their approval of the amazing sight of Discovery flying over Washington to her final resting place, I couldn't do it. All I could do was be sad, be reflective, and be concerned over the future of this nation and how we're going to inspire young people, people with dreams, people with ambitions to go farther, higher, and do greater things than they've ever done before. For many of us, including this man, it was Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, and the shuttle. And right now, there's nothing. For the Aero-News Network, Aero TV, and Airborne, I'm Jim Campbell.
A new version of WingX was released this week, which includes the addition of ADS-B traffic to WingX Pro. The new version of the app seamlessly integrates traffic targets into its dual-screen moving map. WingX Pro 7 will initially support 1090 MHz ADS-B traffic and add 978 MHz ADS-B traffic in May 2012. WingX Pro 7's version 6.4's moving maps now highlights obstacles on en route charts and dynamically declutters the screen as the user pinches and zooms. Dr. Hilton Goldstein, CEO of Hilton Software, said that the new version builds on the recent addition of synthetic vision, terrain overlays, and the passive radar altimeter. The upgrade is free for registered WingX users. Not to be outdone, a new version of ForeFlight released this week offers support for the Stratus portable ADS-B weather receivers introduced last month. On its blog, ForeFlight says that the new version 4.5 supports all FIS-B products transmitted by the ADS-B network, including high-resolution regional NextRad, CONUS NextRad, METARs, TAFs, Windaloft, PIREPs, SUA information, TFRs, and NOTAMs. Other enhancements included in the update are direct-to-route search syntax, estimated time of departure offsets for routes, naming favorite routes, map performance enhancements, and enhancements to the altitude rules in the file and brief view. However, ForeFlight sent out an advisory Tuesday saying that pilots who wait for the next revision, 4.5.1, which is due out in a few days, will not have to re-download all of their plates, charts, and other documents. That data is apparently lost when updating to version 4.5. Space Shuttle Discovery made her last flight Tuesday, departing the Kennedy Space Center on the back of the specially modified 747 that was used to carry the spacecraft back to Florida after a landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California. The shuttle and the jumbo jet made a low pass over the Space Center before heading north, where it followed the coast to about Virginia before turning inland. It also made passes over several of Washington, D.C.'s landmarks before making its final landing at Dulles International Airport in Virginia. Discovery will be placed on display at the Smithsonian's Stephen Udvar-Hazy Center near the airport. A similar flight is planned for Space Shuttle Enterprise on April 23rd as it goes to its new home, some might say final resting place, on the flight deck of the Intrepid Museum. Enterprise will make photo passes over several New York City landmarks before landing at JFK International Airport. As the shuttle era ends, the commercial crew era is gathering momentum. NASA and SpaceX this week announced that following a flight readiness review, the next launch of a Falcon 9 rocket is planned for April 30th. The booster will carry a Dragon capsule, which, if all goes well, will rendezvous with the International Space Station 4 days after the launch. The primary objectives for the flight include a flyby of the ISS at a distance of approximately 1.5 miles to validate the operation of sensors and flight systems necessary for a safe rendezvous and approach. The spacecraft will also demonstrate the ability to abort the rendezvous. After these capabilities are successfully proven, the Dragon will be cleared to berth with the ISS. NASA says there is a single instantaneous launch opportunity at 12:22 Eastern Daylight Time on the 30th. Though the potential time frame for actual launches is a long way off, SpaceX is also considering a new launch site near the coast of Texas. The FAA is working up an environmental impact statement to analyze the potential environmental impacts of SpaceX's proposal to launch orbital and suborbital launch vehicles from a private site in Cameron County in southern Texas. The EIS will consider the potential environmental impacts of the proposed action and reasonable alternatives, which could mean no action at all. The successful completion of the environmental review process does not guarantee that the FAA would issue any launch license. Of course, the project must also meet all FAA safety, risk, and other requirements. Each week, we share with you a sample of an online video one of our viewers thought was especially entertaining. We call it AVW, the Aero Video of the Week. This week, some pretty spectacular footage taken from cameras mounted on the solid rocket boosters during a space shuttle launch. All of the audio is natural sound coming from the ascent, separation, and eventual splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean. It's a reminder of what we've lost with the end of the shuttle program. To find this video, you can go to YouTube and search for Riding the Booster. The full video runs about 8.5 minutes in length. Finally this week, talk about your buried treasure. 20 iconic Supermarine Spitfire aircraft will be returning home to the UK now that they've been found buried 40 feet underground in Burma. The discovery was made in February by David Kundall, 62, a British farmer and patriot who spent 15 years searching for the missing aircraft. It's believed the 20 planes will be in near-perfect condition, as they were buried in their shipping containers waxed, wrapped in greased paper, and their joints tarred. The aircraft were abandoned and buried at the order of Lord Louis Mountbatten to protect against a Japanese occupation just 2 weeks before the end of the war. Amazingly, Kundall says that the British government will make no claims against the planes, so he hopes to be able to recover some of the money he spent searching for them. His dream is to see a full squadron of the iconic fighters flying at a future air show. We certainly hope he's successful. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at Aero-News.net. And join us again next week for another edition of Airborne here on Aero TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching. See you next week.